Hello, I'm the Biochemist, and I've got an experiment. I'm searching for the highs, the lows, and the mids of the PlayStation catalog here on the PS1 Library Deep Dive. Today we were given a bit of a challenge by a friend over at Jesse Sells Stuff, link in the description, to take on Spawn, the Eternal.
We're gonna be showing the game that
I'm excited.
the Mr. Chemist over here will be playing on his channel. Count to 100.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 100.
That's what I went with. You ready?
All right. Oh, Spawn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Either way, Mr. Biochemist, how would you rate this little stop on the scale of 1 to 10?
I think it was pretty good. Spawn seems like a cool game. Looks like a fighting game. Or something. I think it's a fighting game. Anyway.
If you guys have any connection or love for Spawn, let me know in the comments because I'm not too familiar with the guy. So what did Jesse put me through? Find out in a bit. First, we're going to get started where all games start, and that, of course, is the cover art. 30 seconds, go. We have Spawn brooding in the center here with a mean-ass stare, and a left hand getting ready to blast you with some magic. He's surrounded by the chains that you can use in the game, and he's got that big cape you can also use. All of this is done in a great art style synonymous with the character that I sadly know nothing about. The logo is large in the bottom third, catching your eye and your attention. A good cover, though I think the white background doesn't really match. Maybe if it was like a shiny reflective silver background, it would have worked better. Granted, the white background looks better in real life in a PS1 case than in this JPEG here, but overall solid cover.
Okay, let's go.
So, Spawn the Eternal was released in 1997 in North America, then in Europe and Japan in 1998, according to Movie Games. It's based on the comics created by Todd McFarlane, first published in 1992. And it's about a CIA agent who died, made a deal with a demon so he could see his wife again. Thanks ImageComicsFandom.com for that, because I know, again, nothing about this character, other than that he was in that Soul Calibur game one time. He's really cool though, a fact undoubtable since he was one of the biggest hits in comics back in the 90s. A fact made even more impressive because he was published by Image Comics, not Marvel or DC. We gotta start with the gameplay. There's two main aspects here, what I've dubbed Exploration Mode and Fighting Mode. Exploration takes a behind-the-back view as we watch Spawn's ass explore the crime-filled environments of the world. We have tank controls here, but they're not the stiffest, so it's alright. I'm used to tank controls playing a lot of these PS1 games. While exploring, you can punch and kick some things to break them. You can also interact with doors and levers and such by using the X button. Spawn's also got these fancy jumps and rolls. Some levels even have these traps you gotta avoid, which help keep exploration fresh. In general, there's not much to look at, but I did find the worlds a little bit endearing to me. In the first area, you explore a city, where you can find a hidden rusty key to unlock a door to some power-ups, which is nice. There's also this cool little diner you can find. You'll go into the sewers too. Every game's gotta have sewers. There's some spooky cemeteries and castles and some other places too that Spawn will go to as he collects some souls. Exploration wasn't super fun, but it's kinda cute, I guess. That PS1 charm makes it endearing today, I think. What makes this half of the game a slog though is just how you navigate. The camera angle makes things look really janky when you turn corners, and it's just easy to get lost in some of the kind of labyrinthine levels. They're not super complex or anything, I just found it easy to lose my bearings when I got turned around, especially since that camera angle doesn't give you so much room to look at your surroundings. It also makes the traps in the world difficult to navigate because there's a severe lack of depth perception. You don't have any control over where your camera's pointed, so you just kind of gotta deal with it. While I thought the worlds were kind of charming in their like PS1-ness, they're very empty and there's not much to do. You just kind of walk around until you find the right place to go. So the other half of the game is Fighting Mode. Whenever you encounter an enemy, you snap out of the 3D movement into a 2D fighting game. I hate this. It's always 1v1, and the enemies don't vary that much, so it becomes stale fast. Your basic guys just come at you, that smacking and that kicking. Then some of the bigger enemies, they'll have like a Hadouken or something. I found it kind of tough at first because the controls are pretty stiff. Eventually I discovered that kicks are your best friend. The punches are pretty damn useless. Average enemies can just get doinked a few times in the head and then you can move on. This is not a viable tactic for everyone though, especially when I found this pipsqueak who I would just miss whenever I try to do a high kick. Dick. Sometimes the game just makes you miss when you definitely should have hit. You can pick up different orbs and shit during exploration mode that have some use. Green ones give you health, which is nice. Other ones are your special moves. You can pick up pyromantic orbs and gauntlets and cryogenic orbs and stuff like that can only be used by inputting special commands during your fights, like in every other fighting game, right? I get what they were going for, making you think about when you can use your special moves instead of just being able to spam them, but I don't think this is a great way to do it. It also doesn't help that inputs for the special moves were inconsistent. I never felt like I could reliably pull them off. They just seemed to work when they wanted to. There's too many barriers of entry to access these good moves. You gotta collect stuff, you gotta manage the stuff, and then get lucky enough for that stuff to get executed. I think this game would have worked better as like a beat 'em up, and not like trying to do on this 2D fighting game stuff. I'm thinking of something like Golden Axe, where you can collect those potions and then press one button and you unleash a big move, right? The more potions you get, the bigger the move. Maybe we could have done something like that, where Spawn can collect different orbs like we do in this game, and then unleash them with like an easy press of a button. I think this game should have been a 3D fighting game, a la maybe Fighting Force on the PS1, where you have a lot of enemies coming at you at once. It makes you feel like a badass when you kill a whole bunch of enemies. Spawn can only take guys on 1v1? Come on now. That's not fun. That's not the badass superhero we want to be. Anyway, off that tangent, the easiest extra move you can pull off is by pressing L1 and L2 to regain some health, magically. You'll notice these numbers in the bottom right, they drop when you use this magic, and when you perform some of the special moves too, I think. So you gotta manage that as well. I'll be honest, it was just not enjoyable. I used some codes I found online and skipped around after I got through some of the second world, because I just could not bear it anymore. I just wanted to see if things changed up a bit later on, for you all, you know? Yeah. Spawn goes prehistoric, turning into a caveman, which I thought was pretty funny. He looks pretty funny in his costume, like, look at him. You fight this non-human primate, and then there's even a bit of platforming in the exploration part of the game. About as fun as you expect since there were insta-death pitfalls, but at least they switched it up. And it actually wasn't that bad. I thought this level was pretty cool because it gave us some like Tomb Raider vibes with the jungle and temple settings. It was at this point where I learned something though. According to a GameFAQs guide I found, the f***ing special moves listed in the manual are wrong. No wonder I couldn't perform them right. The manual says, for example, a pyromantic orb is back, down, X. When in reality, it's just back, down, X. Knowing the actual button combos, I can pull the moves off easily. So the game's not broken, it's just what they wrote down was wrong. There's also this cool move where you can rip people's arms off. Finally having access to these made combat a little fun, though it still grew stale since it was, again, just one-on-one over and over and over again. Especially when you find out that you can just do an infinite combo by shooting that orb over and over and over again. You pretty much stunlock most enemies as long as you have enough of that ammo. Maybe there's some multi-enemy fights that come at different points in the game. I don't know. Again, I skipped over a lot of it because it was just boring and bad. So yeah, let's talk about the graphics real quick. They're pretty muddy and just barely representations of what they're supposed to look like, even by PS1 standards. Again, I do find this a bit charming, just because I love this era of games, I guess. But a review by IGN when the game first came out said that the graphics are, quote, as ugly as the backside of a male dog with explosive diarrhea, end quote. Which is hilarious. This is before the AVGN 2, way back in 97, so they were really inspired with that diarrhea line, I think.
Cowabunga. Cow a fucking piece of dog shit. This game is diarrhea coming out of my dick.
I can't disagree, really. What bothers me most is probably the draw distance, though. Specifically, when going from the exploration to fighting mode, the camera zooms out a ton sometimes, often making the background that was once a street or a jungle just turn into a black void out of nowhere. Imagine playing Tekken 2 and the background just completely disappeared. It's ugly and it takes you out of the game. The music is largely pretty ambient. It does contribute to a creepy, hellacious atmosphere. There's some superhero music that plays when you fight that gets you a bit amped, so it's not that bad. Take a listen. Yeah, music is passable. I'll give it to him. So I did get to the final boss, again by cheating, and I fought him. There's this giant flame elemental being in the background, but we just fight this demon here that I swear we fought earlier in the game. He's got a shit ton of health, and I promise you these kicks just go right through him. But we beat him, and that seems like the end of the game. The story was pretty loose. There were some cutscenes here and there, but like they didn't establish too much story, so you gotta read the manual for that. Sorry, guys. And this is the part of the show where we dive through the credits and learn more about one of the names we find. Today, we'll talk about Spawn's creator, Todd McFarlane, and really, just try to ignore the game we just played. McFarlane was all over the comics industry in the 80s and 90s, working on Spider-Man and Batman among many other projects. He'd eventually leave the mainstream comic publishers alongside other artists to form Image Comics, where he would bring Spawn to life in 1992. Spawn would get several video games, including ones on the Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube, and of course this shite on the PS1. According to Moby Games, McFarlane was of course credited with these Spawn titles, but he was also given credits in MLB Slugfest, Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, Ultima Online, and Shrek on the Xbox. Yeah. Todd McFarlane has had a long career being a mogul in basically every medium you can think of. So yeah, that was Spawn Eternal. Leave a comment to recommend what game we should play next. Thank you, Jesse, for that one. Again, go check out his channel. We did a little crossover, and he also got us Final Fantasy Tactics, which is a far better game. We'll tackle that sometime in the future. Now though, I just need a break. A chill game to wrap up the summer. Let's go golfing, baby. We're gonna do Hot Shots Golf next.
Let's go golfing!
See you.